Hi there, I'm Sian Reeves. Welcome to Who Cares? This is a YouTube channel for you, real people and professionals, to discuss caring, a chance to be listened to and to be heard, to share some small victories, some little wins. 600 people a day are leaving their work to become carers. 1 in 5 of us are doing over 50 hours a week of unpaid care, which equals £184 billion a year, which is a whole other unfunded NHS. Who cares? I do. I'm talking today to Iain from South London, who's a PR consultant. Hi Iain, how are you?
Hi Sian, I'm well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, thank you for sharing your story with us. As I said to you ages ago, this is about a space for people to talk about what they've been through and to perhaps realise that they're not on their own, because carers are the ones who actually don't get listened to, because it's always about the person you are caring for, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that when you take that step to becoming a carer, all thoughts of yourself sort of get parked, and you start to view yourself almost from the outside rather than from the inside, because your days are controlled by what you have to do for the person you're caring for. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your mum was up in Scotland and you work in London. So what happened for you when you suddenly realised, I've got to go up and do more or sort out something to help mum?
Well, it was an extraordinary time, of course, as many of us remember the lockdown that started almost 6 years ago now. But in late July 2020, my mother, who was an extraordinarily independent character, got in touch with me to say that she was in hospital. And I said, well, couldn't you have let me know sooner? And she went, well, I just didn't want to worry you. And I went, oh, well, you know, for the last few months, I've been worried about you because I was worried that might never see you again because of this lockdown. And nobody was supposed to be traveling at that time, but I just thought, well, I'm going to Scotland. And when I got there, I found her in the hospital, and I knew at that moment that it would be a process, and it would be one that I would be happy to engage in. And I was fortunate that my career allowed me to work remotely. So I just at that moment in time assumed the principal role in my life was going to be as a carer for my mother for however long she needed me to be there. And that's how it all began. So I jumped on the train at Euston, got off at Glasgow, picked up some things that she'd asked me to pick up from Marks and Spencer's, of all places, headed to the hospital. And then for the next almost 2 years, I had relocated back to my childhood home.
So how did that feel? Did it feel up? I know you said you knew, and you said to me before, I'm really happy to have looked after my mum.
Yeah, it was my life's greatest honour. I mean, it's the greatest privilege you can have, is to care for somebody who's cared for you. And by that time, I was almost 60 years old. So,
but you were in a privileged position in that you could travel and you could take everything up there, work from Glasgow instead of London all of a sudden. And you didn't have family relying on you at home to do things for them. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, you've still got your own. You've got your own mental health to think about, and the fact that all of a sudden, a life that you've lived for 30 plus years as an independent person, living on your own in your own home, all of a sudden that is not something that you have control over any longer. You're back in an environment that it's to all intents and purposes very foreign to what you're used to. I lost my independence trying to maintain my mother's independence for her, if you see what I mean.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. Because I often feel like a child when I go back home, and I'm like, I'm not a child, you know, I own a house, I have a child myself, you know, I'm independent, I have my work, and yet you turn into this, I turn into like a 13-year-old really bad teenager. So did you think that you would be there for, was it 2 years that you were there, up there? on and off?
First, I didn't really know. I mean, when I saw my mum in the hospital that day, I honestly didn't know if she would ever get out of the hospital. But because she had such strong will, and I would be I would see all the same people who I'd known years before, still working in shops at home and everything, and they say, "Oh, your mother's such an independent woman. She'll be fine." And she was. And I remember she said to me in the hospital, "I'll get home for Christmas, you know." And she was. She got home for another couple of Christmases, which was lovely. But I think that I didn't know how long I was going to be there for, but all I did know was that my own life had to become secondary to her life, because my ambition was to make sure that what time she had left, and I suspected, because she was elderly, that probably there wasn't going to be that much time left. So all I wanted to do was make sure that I was able to make the best things happen for her and make her life as good as it possibly could be in any way that I could. From bringing fresh flowers into the house every week to making sure that her hairdresser came to see her as often as possible, and just made sure that she had all those little luxuries around about her that she maybe hadn't even treated herself to quite a lot of the time. My mother wanted to, her great driving force was actually to get back behind the wheel of her car, because that to my mum had always signified independence to her. And she didn't ever get back there, but she tried really hard. And I think the day that she realized she would never do it again was the day that she probably just finally thought, "I'm never going to be the person I was before." And she, at that point in time, I think probably started on almost deciding that it was time to check out.
Would you think now, looking back, there are some self-care tips that you could pass on to other people that you didn't do for yourself? All you're talking about there is stuff that you were doing for your mum to make it better, which is obviously great and wonderful. But looking back, should you have done some other things for yourself to keep your own sanity, to make your own health be well?
But you know what? I this might sound strange, but I denied myself nothing. It was an amazing time for shopping online, and I probably bought more Vivienne Westwood clothing than I've ever bought in my life. I had a lovely time. I bought lots of art. I had friends who lived in Glasgow. I'm from a small town about 30 miles away from Glasgow. But I was able to catch up with lots of people who I hadn't seen for years, who had been part of my university years, and my sort of like clubland time and my modeling time and all of the things that I did when I was young. They're still around and they're fabulous. So I saw them. So, my mum was actually really observant of the fact that she knew that I needed to be able to still have some form of independence. So I would go away for a few hours at a time and just be with my friends and know that she was going to be okay, because we had a lovely, my mum had a great circle of friends, lovely neighbours who supported us and supported me. I mean, I'm in touch with them to this day, some of them, because they were what I think I would say to any person who is isolated and feeling maybe slightly caught in a trap and maybe not looking after themselves, is try always to sort of at least take a walk out. Get out of the immediate environment. Make sure that you're allowing yourself some fresh air. Make contact with people in any way that you can. And I know that can sometimes be difficult, but you tend to find that if you're in a situation where you're quite isolated and caring for somebody, it's easier in actual fact. People will empathize with you and sympathize with you and support you more than if you were just a person on your own.
And
that's what I discovered anyway. I was very fortunate, though. I mean, my position, I think, in retrospect, was privileged as a carer. There were very, very tough moments, and there were decisions that had to be taken that are never easy. I had my brother, who it was, I mean, we said all the way through, I said, there's no Iain team. He supported me from afar because he was unable to travel to Scotland. His work was not something that stopped during lockdown in the way that lots of other people's work did. And, but, you know, we were a team. And that was great. So I knew that I could. I spoke to him every day. He phoned to speak to Mum every day. We had that contact every day. Those are really important things. Having that rhythm and making a rhythm happen for yourself every day. You know, I made sure that every day I sat down with Mum to watch Pointless at 5:15.
Yeah.
Because she loved to watch Pointless and she loved to keep her brain active. And my mum read until the day she died, virtually. She was an extraordinary person like that. She loved culture. She loved entertainment. She loved reading. She loved fashion. She loved to keep herself looking as good as she possibly could. I mean, my mum gave me lots of my own traits, I suppose, my vanity.
Your good looks.
And I think that she, you know, I think that those are really important things. Make sure that you don't lose touch with who you are. And at times you feel that you have because, oh, there's another meal to be made, or there's another prescription to be picked up, or there's another delivery of medication that has to be given. But that's just your job. You know what I mean? I started to just look at caring for Mum as being an extension of my of my daily work duties, really. So I established a routine. I would get up in the morning. I cleaned the house from top to bottom every day. I became a demonic cleaner. I don't know why, but I just loved it. Everything. I started to find that I had a route through on everything, just through establishing a routine for myself that was built round about Mum, but that she didn't actually dictate. I didn't ever want her to feel that she was being a burden to me. You know what I mean? Because I think that's the worst thing. There were times I know when she felt in her own mind that I was being limited because I wasn't in my usual place. I wasn't with my usual friends. I was, you know, away from my home in London. But I had to keep reassuring her that that was all still going to be there for me. And that for me at that moment in time, being able to look after her was absolutely number one in my list of priorities. I didn't really care about anything else, to be honest.
So it sounds like you had a really good grip of yourself on how to manage all of this. It sounds brilliant, and we should all try and do what you did and adopt that manner. But were there times when she was opposing you, when you were saying we need to do this and we need to go back to the doctors? Or was she quite good at going, yes, I will do that? Because, you know, parental, they're in charge and you're not in charge.
Oh,
that sort of thing.
There were glimmers of, yes, there were glimmers of that when I actually said, I think I'm looking after an 89-year-old toddler. Because there would be moments of, but that came from frustration, and that was the sad thing about it. It didn't come from a place of petulance or anger. It came from a place of her own frustration at not being able to be. She wasn't able to be the mum that she wanted to be.
Yeah, because they want to look after you.
She wanted still for me to come home and be her little boy who she had always looked after. So it's difficult. I'm absolutely certain it would be for anyone. I mean, I know that I would feel really hamstrung if, you know, my goddaughter had to start looking after me. You know what I mean? I would think, oh, this is wrong. This is not the way that it goes.
Yeah.
I feel anxious enough when she buys me lunch. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, no, I should still be doing that, you know?
Yeah.
So
this is the role reversal, isn't it?
It's role reversal, and it was something that I think that she at times found far more difficult than I did. But that was a pride thing, and that was her independence, this fierce independence that I had always been witness to, but so many other people had borne witness to as well. She wanted to. She did everything on her own terms. She was a successful career woman herself, and ironically, my mother worked in home care and had recruited quite a lot of the women who actually, in the end, we did get we started off paying for care privately, but I was determined that we would also be able to tap into what my mother was entitled to as somebody who had paid taxes and national insurance for all these years.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute fight.
Yeah.
What was absolutely really interesting was the fact that my mum had set up so many amazing systems, and some of those women came in and said, your mum did amazing work. She changed the way that the home care services worked in this area, and it has all been destroyed by being controlled by apps and technology. It had taken away that personal thing, because caring for somebody is about, it's about human relationships. It can't be done by apps. It's technology can help, and I embrace technology, but I also think you've also got to look to the good things from the past. And I think there's nothing more empowering than having somebody come into your space to help you get through things that might be difficult or embarrassing. Yes, absolutely. There's certain things that you don't want to be happening. You know, your elderly parent does not want you to be sorting out their commode, for example.
Yes, and that's the delicate balance, isn't it? And we all know that we have friendships that work and work relationships that work. And when it comes to parents, as you say, you and with your goddaughter, you can't imagine her helping you with your underwear and stuff like that, And so it seems like it's being mentally aware enough as the carer and trying not to be too tired. That's another thing. You're tired from this food, 3 meals a day, medication, prescriptions, doctors, getting them some sort of exercise so they're still moving. And then you've got to think about what is the best way of dealing with this, and can I get any outside help? And you did. It seems to be the people who are winning are the people who are perhaps a bit computer literate or have a bit of energy to go, I can look outside of this. I can find a way to help me and her and honour her if she set up all these wonderful things. Was she a carer herself? Have you heard of these invisible universal aunts? Where...
No. She was a director of. She was like an organizer. She organized home care,
right,
over a big area,
and home care for the elderly who needed like people to go and hoover or make a meal.
All sorts of people, all sorts of people. People who were elderly, people who were ill, people who maybe had disabilities, all sorts of things. So my mum had a real understanding of the caring industry.
And in the community. And was she anti getting that in for her?
No, not at all. She knew that she needed care. She was happy to pay for it. And I said, well, I know that you're happy to pay for it. I'm happy for you to pay for it as well, until such time as we're able to secure what your right is, because you are entitled. At that time, the late Queen of England would have been entitled to home care. Everybody is. But it's very difficult to secure it sometimes because of the amount of bureaucracy that there is out there. And I don't know. I mean, that was just what I came up against where I was, but it might be easier in other places. But I don't imagine that it is, because, as we know, public services are stretched, and sometimes it's not the easiest route through. And we were fortunate that Mum was financially secure enough to be able to pay for private care, but private care is not cheap.
No, it's £40 an hour.
But the alternative, a lot of people find themselves in the situation where they have to go into residential care, which that's exorbitant. That means people selling their houses. That means kids losing their inheritance. That means all sorts of things. That it's an extraordinary. The care system is something that is, from my experience, I was just glad that I was lucky to be able to become a part of the care system. I didn't even know that I could maybe claim something called carer's allowance, though I doubt that I would have been given it. But
It's
What I would say that-
£89.10 a week. You see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. There's 600 people a day giving up their jobs to look after their loved ones or their elderly parents because of our ageing population. And we are in a financial crisis, a mental health crisis, because like you were away, my parents are away from me. You know, a lot of us, I think in our age group, you know, came to London to work, you know, and left home. And so you're in that problem of going up and down on the train and then realising, oh, there's something that's got to change now. And luckily you were able to do it. Your brain was able to do it. And did you discuss with Mummy about staying there and not going in? And she said, I don't want to go into a care home. Thank you for listening to Who Cares with me, Sian Reeves. I'm talking to Iain, a PR consultant from South London. If you're enjoying listening to Who Cares, please subscribe. And if you want to get in touch and share your story, please do. I'd love to hear from you.
No, it was just something that I wasn't going to allow. I just didn't want it. I've seen enough care homes to know that I just didn't want her in one. I knew that she would have hated it. She would have not been able to be the independent person that she was. And, you know, it was better for her to always be in her own home. My mum was a real homebody. You know, as a kid, I remember going on holiday, and by the time we got to the end of the holiday, I could tell she was desperate to get home again. That's what she loved, her home. She took great pride in it. It was beautiful. So no, absolutely not. She, you know, there was a couple of times where she said, oh, well, maybe you should just put me in a home. But I knew she was saying it just to be contentious, and it was just her frustration coming out again. But there was no way, and it was never a question. I said to her that first time when we got her home from hospital in 2020, I said to her, I'm here with you now. I'm not going anywhere. And she said, oh, well, you can't. You've got to. And I went, no, I will make this work. This has got to work for you. I'm secondary in this, but we'll make it work. And we did. It was a business. It was a business, but you're going into you're almost signing a contract, because it's a contract that's built on blood. It's not built on money, you know.
And you said you were supported because of your friends from school and good neighbours.
Yeah.
So that enabled you to pop out for maybe an hour and know that there was someone who might nip in and sit with her. Did she need that, or was
No, she didn't. For a lot of the time, she didn't. She was very happy just to be there with her book. We got her one of those special chairs that allowed her to be more mobile. She had. We had walking frame and a trolley thing that she had to walk with, and everything that we bought ourselves. You know, we got her every sort of possible sort of like
aid.
Yes, to help her. And she liked those times of independence. And I remember I did go into an exhibition opening in Glasgow. I went to a couple of fashion events and things. And I mean, you know, I got back later in the evening and whatever, but it was always fine. And it was always okay, because she was able still at that point in time to get through to the kitchen. And she, you know, I would have stuff prepared that she just needed to stick in the microwave or whatever. And she liked that in a way, because that was giving her that sense of still having a bit of control. Which you know, she didn't have most of the time, because she was gradually closing down, as it were. Her physicality was going, because from the, you know, just before lockdown, my mother was out and about all the time with her friends. She was doing, you know, out to lunch at the hairdressers, whatever it happened to be. But for a lot of people of her generation, the cessation of moving around the lockdown brought actually started the decline for lots of people, because when you don't move, if you don't use it, you lose it, as they say. And that's gradually what I think was happening to quite a lot of people in my mum's case and people of her generation. They had stopped moving, and as a result, their body just stopped being able to move as it had done. And that was a lot to do with lockdown and COVID, I think. I think a lot of them lost their confidence as well to an extent. And I saw that a little bit with mum as well, because if you're not out and about, the world outside does become a little bit more scary.
Yeah. And you're not
Because you become
talking.
almost institutionalized in your own home, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And what we must remember as well as kids, mine are like, can't wait for me to leave the house, so I'm sure she was thrilled when you were saying, I'm off out this evening for something. And she was probably like, oh, great, I'll get a couple of hours on my own to be my own person. I mean,
Yeah.
so is there any other sort of tips that you would think of that you think, now I could have done that and that would have made it easier, that would have made it better for yourself and for her? Because I think the hardest thing, isn't it, is for them is that they're having their independence taken away from them by us as the child making decisions. And they don't want to do that. So did you find a different way of talking to her as well, which made it her idea rather than yours?
So once again, I think I was really lucky because she was nothing if not a realist. I mean, in the few moments when she was a little bit sort of like temperamental or a little bit contentious, I could see where it was coming from. I mean, I think probably I was the one that I had been brought up in a home where routine was everything, and I'm so glad about that. And when I was a kid, of course, you don't like it because you don't want to be going to tennis lessons first thing on a Saturday morning when your other friends are watching Swap Shop or whatever it happens to be. On any of these things. But then you look back later in life and you go, well, thank goodness. And it was at that point in time that I looked back at my life and I thought, thank goodness my mum and dad gave me that framework, because it was very, very easy for me then to sort of see the fact that that's what she needed. She needed that sense of things being a routine that we both could work to. So every morning I went out for a really long walk so that I got all my steps done. So I was keeping up with my own fitness, even although I didn't have my usual gym close by or whatever, I still kept on top of my exercise and everything. And that worked for me in terms of my own personal headspace as well. So, I think I've said this already, but my top tip to anyone who's in this situation, if they're as fortunate as I was, and I know that not everybody is actually really just to sort of almost have a list for every day, and don't make it too detailed and don't make it too difficult for yourself. Give yourself 5 tasks every day and make sure also that you absolutely factor into the timetable of your day time for yourself. And if that just means being in another room because you can't actually physically be away from the person or the home, then do it that way. Just find a way to find your own space. Do a puzzle book or read or listen to something or watch something, but just make sure you have your own space. Also, just make sure that you are au fait with all the things that are available to you, like community alarms and things like that, because those are essential, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's elderly and not great on their feet, for example, because they could fall at any moment. And if you happen to be in another room and you don't hear that happening,
is that the thing around their neck?
Yes,
community alarm?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so all of those things you should be looking into as well. That gives you peace of mind. And I think I was lucky that I had a good relationship with the local GP surgery. Probably largely because I sort of like I never take no for an answer. Well, you know that. And I just forged ahead there and made sure that we were keeping the communication channels open there. And just making sure that you celebrate the good times, because there are good times. It's not all doom and gloom. I learned more about my mum and how she met my dad and her family and lovely stories about when she was a little kid and, her time in Glasgow as a young woman working with with theatre people and publishing people and all the things that I had never really heard about. I found out so much and really celebrated her life along with her. And that was lovely for her. So yeah, encourage storytelling, and just make it as joyous and as joyous a time as you possibly can. It can't be all doom and gloom because it might be the end of someone's life that's approaching, but it's a time to celebrate as well.
And
You've
having
got to make
those,
good things happen. You've got to just sort of look beyond the sort of like, yeah, it's maybe a bit of a drudge. It's maybe a bit of an unhappy time a lot of the time because you see somebody failing before your eyes, but then that's life. That's what
yes,
happens.
yes,
So be real about it. Build treats in. I mean, I did. I had fresh flowers in the house every week. I had lovely things, sort of like just small things, but just things that made things different, And a lovely dessert I would make as a treat, or just
that
think,
takes a lot of energy and brain power because you were doing your job as well at the same
yeah.
time. I think you
Well, I'm
did
just
an
lucky because I want to be
exceptional.
busy all the time, though. You know what I mean? I'm just not somebody that can sit around. So, in actual fact, it was probably really good for me in that sense as well. Because had I just been in London, and I was working hard when I was in London, but there was an awful lot of that 2021 into 22 time when we were still sort of COVID bound a little bit. There was an awful lot of spare time.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I was lucky because quite a lot of that time was spent looking after mum and doing my work.
yes.
So,
And having that time to talk about her stories, you
mm,
don't really have that
no,
actually. So that was a very special person, to be able to sit because you can't go anywhere else. So
no.
to think about digging into, sharing some things that you perhaps had never even heard is really
Mm.
rather lovely.
And the other thing
Ah,
I would say is there's always somebody else who's in the same situation as you. And I've got a couple of really good friends who were both going through a similar thing at different parts of the country. And we did speak to each other and we did share those experiences and we were able to have a good old laugh about it.
yeah,
And I cry about it, though I didn't, because like most of the stuff that happened in my case was just absolutely outrageous and hilarious. But I think that, yeah, I think if you can find a network of people, carers, other carers, and this is what maybe where this podcast will be useful to people, is just to have other people's stories to listen to. And whilst, my story is unique, everybody's story is unique.
yeah.
Maybe some elements of what everybody says that just sort of chime with whoever is listening.
Yeah. Oh, well done, you. And I think you are good in that you're very good at keeping yourself busy and thinking of new ideas. And that's a
Mm.
really good tool for us all to think of, that there are other things to do and to make things nice.
Yeah.
It's not all like, trudging to the doctors and
Well, I
battle.
mean, I was doing this in Scottish winters. Do you know what I mean? And that is not easy because
Yeah.
it's dark and it's cold and icy and snowy and all sort of slushy, worse than anything else. But you just get on with it. And in actual fact, don't look at your feet. Look around you because it's beautiful.
There are bits of the
Life is
day.
beautiful a lot of the time, and our surroundings are there to be appreciated and celebrated. So keep looking up and don't look down.
Ah, that's a lovely, lovely thing to say. Thank you, Iain, for
No.
sharing your time with us today. Thank
Mm.
you.
It's a pleasure. I hope that it's of some use to somebody.
Yes, I think it will be. Thank you, Iain.
Thank you.